Guten Tag, and welcome to another quality content module freshly ground by small beans, where ideas are always percolating. If you enjoy this pod, please consider joining our community over at patreon.com/smallbeans, where only $3 a month gets you access to double the content, including Patreon-exclusive series like Spiel Boys and Star Trek: The Next Futurama, plus bonus episodes of your SB favorites. Much love, and enjoy the thing.
You're about to hear the recorded audio diaries of Michael Swaim, Adam Ganzer, and Abe Epperson, transmitted to you from another dimension through the wonder of podcast technology. Lost in the multiverse, they have to dig into a different piece of multiversal fiction each episode, in the hopes of finally discovering a way back to their reality. How do they know this isn't their reality? Because one of them is being a real asshole. Will our heroes ever make it home, or will they inadvertently explore our obsession with multiverses, alternate timelines, and parallel worlds, and tie it all into a conversation about postmodern art, pop culture, and what it means to be a human right now? This is Escape from the Multicurse.
It's been a really long time since I heard this amount of house music. As in, like, I haven't been at a dance club for, 15 years. And it was like, oh, here we go.
I feel like for the first time in 20 years, techno is alive.
It really is. It really is. Those bassy little curbs on them, I loved it so much. Loved it. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, Abe. Hey, is Michael here?
Yo, Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump over my dick. Oh,
Oh, no.
it's your guy.
Wait, is your name Jack?
Yeah.
Or are you Michael?
How weird are you now?
My name is still Michael, but I'm on a bicycle. Oh, the bicycle's my dick.
Great. Well, writing his dick into this universe,
boy.
which already is very punny. Welcome to Escape from the Multicurse. I'm Adam Ganzer. That's Abe Epperson.
Yeah.
And with us is Andrew
Michael
Dice
Dice Swaim. My rhymes are not lame. I can say lame because it's the 90s. Oh,
Zing. This is going to be...
And we're here escaping
doing it.
from the multicurse. Woo!
Woo! Woo! And we stopped at a very interesting port in this comedy storm, and that port is the movie Run Lola Run, a fantastic film that I had not seen since 1999 when it came out. Did you see this in the theater, Abe?
I did not.
Okay. What about you, Michael? Did you see it in the theater?
I saw Lola Run. My cock's like a gun. It shoots. Oh, pee.
Great.
So we know he's into German experimental stuff.
We do know that. Yeah. We know that he's well watched, whatever else he is.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I guess it's time for us to put this bad boy on the multi-map and decide, first of all, how this movie relates to the multiverse, and also maybe give a brief summary for those of us who've never seen it. So if you've never seen the 1999 movie Run Lola Run, it's a German independent film. It was made for, I think, a budget of about $1 million. And it kind of crossed over and became a bit of a cultural hit over here. It's been parodied even on shows like Family Guy, I want to say, and some others. It became sort of a well-known film and launched the career of, I believe it's Franca Potente, who's later on in the Bourne series with Matt Damon. And it follows a young woman whose boyfriend has made a mistake, which meant that he's lost 100,000 marks that he needs to give to his drug lord, I want to say, like some guy he's working for in small-time crime.
Yeah.
And she has 20 minutes to fix this problem. And the movie is sort of Groundhog Day-esque in that they do 3 different versions of what she does in response to his frantic phone call that kicks off the movie. And that's a pretty good summary of it. Abe, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, it came out in 1998, the same year as Sliding Doors.
Yeah. It feels very
in
Sliding
America.
Doors. Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
that's right.
There are a few movies around this time that are touching the multiverse in the way this is. Abe, do you want to put your hot takes down first in the multi-map?
Yeah. So as per our conversation that we've had on these episodes, we always kind of talk about what makes something a good timeline. And this is like so early days for like, it's by no stretch of the imagination the first parallel reality film. Like the whole concept is that she wakes up two times in the movie. There's 3 scenarios, and the third one is like the one that is the good one, right? And I just find that is kind of propaganda. The way we write stories is like a propaganda thing. And I know that movies are just supposed to be fun. Well, let's just have fun, Abe. But I kind of want to talk about why, like, what are the choices we make in movies that say this is a good timeline versus the other ones, because they're opening up a huge can of worms here.
Ooh, I like that. That's a controversial take because it's the opposite of how I felt about it.
I'm the bad boy.
You always are. Michael Dice Swaim, is it cool if I go next, or did you want to spin in here?
Absolutely, my friend. I'm excited to hear your opinion. My cock is like the Minions. It talks in gibberish, but only I can understand it.
Yeah, and it's one-eyed.
Oh, and it likes bananas. It's got an affinity. Oh, LMNO.
I'm really enjoying this version of Michael. Okay.
I hate it so much.
Briefly, I think there's several readings that can be done of Run Lola Run. I think fundamentally that this is a multiverse that's exploring the unintended effects of causality. Like how it's the unintended things that happen that actually shape your life more than your choices. So there's a kind of a determinism at work here, which is interesting because in the context of it being a story being told by a storyteller, it's either self-refuting or sort of an argument for the need for supernatural intervention. And I can get into that a little bit more as we go on, which might be why you think it's propaganda. It's also a fantastic film for the exploration of rejecting patriarchal norms and for dealing with gun violence in a morally responsible way. And I will leave my takes at that as we come back to them later on.
All right. Yeah.
Michael Dice Swaim. What about you, baby?
Hey, personally, I think Abe was basically correct. He was so right, it made me erect. Oh, the movie uses the multiverse to explore choices and connection. Gave me a previously alluded to erection. It kind of is like similar in structure to the butterfly effect. I'm erect.
So I love the constant status updates. I love knowing exactly what his penis is doing.
Wee Willy Winky, my dick's like a slinky. It gets around.
Can you describe your outfit right now, Michael Dice Swaim?
Mostly leather and chains.
Yeah.
My cock's like your brains. It unspools to be many miles long. Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a very long brain. I appreciate that compliment, I guess. Well, Abe. Oh, did you want to ask Dice a question? Please, Abe.
No, I'm just calling him the Dice Man.
The Dice. Yeah, that's right. Well, I think that's a great starting point for all of us. So let's jump into our next segment, Verses on Verses, and talk a little bit about both what we observed in the film and just some fun stuff in the film. In general. Did you want to kick us off, Abe?
Yeah, let's fucking go. Yeah. So, I just, first thing.
Yeah.
That, the beginning of the movie, it starts with some quotes about, like, the cyclic nature of things.
Yeah, it does.
Like, I'm not going to quote them because I don't care.
The T.S. Eliot quote in particular.
Yeah. And
plus,
it's
after the game's before the game by S. Herberger. That rhymes with fur burger.
God damn it.
Got my notes here.
Oh, you wrote that down on your notes? That's great note taking. Thank you.
Then we get like just a shot of weird ass clock. It's like
weird clock.
Clock.
Weird demon clock.
Yeah, the first image is a monster clock. Reminded me of my monster cock.
Yep. Thank
then
you.
we get a crowd of people.
Hey.
And then there's a voiceover of a man talking about humans are mysterious and like full of questions. And it makes asking questions almost useless. It just leads to more questions. And so there's a cyclic nature to humanity itself in trying to know itself. And then a police officer says, there's some facts, actually, though. Like balls around. You got anything for me, Dice Man? No, I do not.
No way. That brought nothing to my brain.
My audio dropped out for a second. I had
Oh,
to tend to my erection.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And then he says, like, a soccer game is 90 minutes or whatever. That's a fact. And then he kicks the ball, and we get the title shot, which spells out the words with the extras, which is a very cool shot. And then we get an intro sequence, animated Lola running it down a spiral. The whole point is everything is spirals. What are they saying here?
Yeah,
right?
I think that's right. I was kind of curious. So one thing that like stands out about the film as I watched it now, in the glorious light of the multiverse cosmos, is there's a lot of different cinematic styles at play in this film, which you don't see that often, and they don't always feel like they're in the same movie. Is that would you say that's fair, Abe?
Yeah, I mean, it's techno, baby. It doesn't give a fuck.
Right, it doesn't care. Yeah. Like, I thought there was a little bit of like some Janot love going on here. Like, I feel like the filmmaker, and I believe this might have been one of their first films, like definitely liked the work of Janot and sort of was doing some of the work there to like make the color saturation pop in select moments, and also just the weird crafted demon clock and stuff felt very much out of that.
Why
world.
was it demon? Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
Why is it a demon? I was like really interested in that as a beginning metaphor, and they kept doing it. She kept running
Obviously,
into mouths.
because time is a bitch.
So do you think that
Like
Thank you, Michael. Dice Swain.
starting to itch?
ditch is my cock's like a ditch? Ladies dig it. Oh, but my point is,
gonna get canceled. Whoa.
it reminded
Yeah.
me in a good way of Scott Pilgrim and Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
But so much
Okay, that's true.
earlier
Yeah.
that I've lost the rhyme. But you got to respect it, how much harder it was to do at this time. My cock is sublime.
Yeah, that's right. 98. There's no CG and stuff like that. In
Not
fact,
really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was. They were talking about like one of the things that they had to do that was like tough to do was the roulette wheel shot at the end. They had to build a little thing for it, or and use a snorkeling camera to put it in like the apparatus that they built, or the fact that they at one point they like zoom in on the eyes of Lola to kind of like when she's like going back in time or repeating a loop. And it's like, if we were to do it right now, if we were to make this film in 2023, we'd have all the CG and we go into like the fractal space of her eye and
That's
stuff like that. But it's so clear that this movie, they can't. So,
One of the interesting things about it is, so like all these movies where they Groundhog Day things or they butterfly effect things, because I feel like this is like right between those two ideas. They always hinge around key choices that the protagonist makes. And in this movie, it really feels like there's only one choice that's being made that actually distinguishes one run of this 20-minute segment from another. And that choice is how she encounters the neighbor and his dog down the staircase when she begins her run. And that piece of it is animated. Like, that's like one of the only consistently animated pieces of this film. And I wonder if it's a way of the filmmaker sort of undermining the key choice that sort of differentiates one timeline from another. Like, even that is not important because none of it can be planned in a way that is meaningful. Like, she can't meaningfully change
Although
things.
at two different times she reacts differently to her dad cheating.
But that's after
Mike
the
Cox
first
like,
variable.
No, it's something people are needing. Go ahead, please. Oh,
No, you're welcome.
Oh,
just
I'm
had to
glad I
wrap up the bit
just
there. Oh,
Appreciate that.
I like the like apologetic
Oh.
Yeah, no, he's got a point. He's got a point. I also think that there's something about this movie. It wants to talk about infinity. It's not just the cyclic shit I said, but it's like it really wants us to think about the concept that we're just particles flying around and randomly hitting each other. So there's so much work putting on like all these small changes prompt big behaviors or small behaviors and responses that bear like future collisions. Because we like typically when Lola will like run into someone and then we'll get snapshots of like this is how their life presumably went after that.
Yeah,
and
right.
it sometimes changes even though it's just like she didn't bump into them or she did or
It's
something
actually
like
her
that.
least important choices that we
Yeah,
extrapolate on
'cause it
into the
just-
future.
It affects other people,
Right.
and it's not urgent and in the 20 minutes that matter for the movie. So the filmmakers want us to think about the fabric of reality and go, that's so fickle or delicate, and one push in one direction at the right time could alter everything. So I don't think that the filmmakers are saying like what happens in the animated sequence is necessarily like governing anything. It's
I
just
agree.
another one of those.
Yes, I agree with that. It's just that if you're going to get really hard science about what is different between one timeline and another, it's the first point of divergence, right? And that first
is.
point is the animated part of the film.
For
And I'm guessing that decision was probably made because it was cheaper. Like that's my I don't necessarily think it's this big artistic thing, but it could be. It could be.
then
And-
what do you think is the meaning of those photo montages? This movie has a happy ending, and so do my massages. Oh, right. But my point is that we see them multiple times, and their fates change for no reason. Maybe my cock is like the seasons, but please, I actually want to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't disagree with what Abe said. I think visually the director has set up this idea that people are all sort of bumping into each other in this chaotic, random way, and it spirals out into completely unpredictable outcomes. That is the guiding principle of the film. The problem is that
So
story...
sorry, Les. Are we supposed to believe that Lola bumping them in a slightly different way made them win the lottery instead of die of cancer?
Isn't that what they're saying?
It seems
My
like
cock's
that's what
the
they're
weakest
saying.
link. Final answer. Oh,
Final answer.
That's an out of time reference.
Yeah, that's your cock's on a game show. Oh,
It started in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
in this, maybe I have an alternate history. I wonder who's the asshole
Maybe it
this
was-
time. It's a mystery.
now you're turning into a fucking Riddler. I'm
no,
liking
it's
this
my.
bit.
I keep calling it out, so it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
my fault.
Sure.
Also the problem with this is that if like all the moments kind of matter in the end, like they all have big adjustments down the line.
Yes.
And splicing out of time, the stories be. If you're making a movie and it's a cool hour and 15 minutes because it's an experimental.
This is the shortest
low-budget-
film ever. It's very
great.
short.
I
It's
love
great.
it.
Yeah, it really is.
You splicing in and out of time, and stories become like kind of the look at that story over there, and that guy became a bird or some bullshit. It deludes the potency of the main arc to me. Like this is just opinion. Like when we cut to how a random woman dies because she touched Lola, like we don't really know why. We just know how much weight to apply. Like we don't know how much. Yeah, we don't know how much weight to apply to that moment. Does
Right.
that matter? Does she matter to us? It's all noise.
That is what is at issue in this film.
Right.
And that's where, now I'm going to sound exactly like my screenwriting professor at USC. This sort of Aristotle's poetics of it all is in a bit of an antithetical place to what the film is actually saying by its premise, because that's why we get this third act wrap up where everything converges in a miraculous way to give them the best possible ending one could imagine. And that, of course, feels a little sappy in 2023, but I think it's also the demand that we have of our story to give us a meaningful statement about this chaotic premise. That's what story is organizing the chaos, and that's problematic for the film's worldview in some ways.
Right, because I think if we want to talk about this as an experimental film, like that's its experiment, and like for example, Everything Everywhere All at Once did this well by anchoring us in one timeline, the timeline. All other timelines are a joke, a bit, a meditation on something, but we're rooting for one version. This movie is so embraces the chaos and says that everyone's like, it's truly a multiverse in the sense that, or it's like truly infinite. This movie just says at the end, boom, this is the right one. This is the one that gives you dramatic satisfaction.
Yeah.
But we have no clue what the rules are, and there's so much randomness that it's almost like, but also a bunch of shitty stuff happened in this timeline. Like that dude in the ambulance died. You know?
No, he didn't die. She saved him, and he, in a very Sistine Chapel-esque, grasping the hands situation.
I didn't read that as he lives at the end of that.
His heartbeat stabilized.
Also, ambulances just give rides to people.
No, so here's the thing that was not clear. That was the guy. That was the bank guard. That's who that was. And it was like, why did he have a heart attack?
Right.
You know, that's weird.
That wasn't true, and that wasn't like, so that's also a flaw.
I don't know if it's a flaw as much as it's I guess it's a flaw if you want to feel like everything feels motivated.
I don't think it's a flaw. It's more like aesthetic engagement, like Scott Pilgrim. My dick's shocking, like the experiment named after Milgram.
Okay.
But do you see my point? Like, you wouldn't ask these questions of like Spaced. That's a show no one knows. Like my cock's face.
You wouldn't ask for everything to be sort of like strung together in a meaningful way and spaced, you think?
I disagree. I think Space makes it very clear to you that these are bits and they're just having fun. This movie's not doing bits. It's trying to make sentiment or build meaning out of these moments.
Absolutely it is. I agree. It's absolutely doing that. To wit, it actually gives our protagonist one superpower, and that superpower is her scream.
It's pretty dope.
Which, by the way, not my favorite of the superpowers.
And you're saying that's not a funny, world-breaking bit?
I don't think it's funny.
Not funny.
Cock's getting
I didn't laugh
saggier.
at it.
It's like a tit. I really feel that like the photo montage and everything is just fun. Like, I don't ask I don't hold this bar to like lock, stock, barrels, and a smoking gun.
I think there are moments in like Lock, Stock, for example, that you are supposed to say, and that like ended well, or that didn't. This movie is kind of doing a thing where it's saying like nothing really, it's kind of nihilistic. Nothing means anything up to a point of just, is she going to get her money? Is Manny her boyfriend going to live? These are the random things that we've attributed to success, but like so much other stuff happens that's just incidental.
Well, to return to the quotes at the beginning of the film, I think that the film is sort of imposing this idea of self-discovery through the repeats. Like, for instance, like if you want to get really into the mechanism of it all, every time that one of the two characters dies, like our leads dies, they go to this bedroom scene that's in sort of an ethery spot. Like, you don't know where they are. It's all bathed in red. And they have this conversation about the first time about sort of, do you love me? And she being a bit ambivalent about that conversation. So she's trying to figure out if she loves him. That's the first one. The second one is him asking, do you love me? Right? And her saying, well, like, of course I do. And him being like, yeah, but you'd replace me if I died. And her saying, but you aren't dead yet. And I feel like what's happening there is they're both coming to this slow understanding of their situation, like who they are together, through these repeated random encounters, which correlates to the T.S. Eliot quote at top, which is you get back to the beginning and you understand the beginning now. I think that's what the filmmaker is trying to say here. I don't know if it works, but I think that's what's being argued for. Mm-hmm. And again, I would say that the multiverse is a way of allowing the chaos of unintended consequences, a thing that culturally we're very interested in now, right? Unintended consequences is like an unintended causality is a thing we're all obsessed with now. Like every moral issue, for instance, that people get upset about on Twitter is a thing that's been spiraled out from causal things that people generally don't intend. With exceptions, but in general, like you'll see a lot of causes that are about funding that comes from this and that was done by these people, like lots of chain of causality stuff that people don't intend. We're interested in that. And a multiverse allows us a way of sort of running a simulation of unintended causality and seeing what it means. But the problem with what it means is that there still has to be a storyteller organizing it for it to have meaning, which is why you feel like it's propaganda at the end.
Well, I kind of want to talk a little bit on that, or I don't know. That discussion to me is very interesting because it's why I bring it up on the Run Lola Run episode is that like it actually is a great itemized, like here's where our multiverse stories are parallel, like our wish fulfillment stories that we've been telling ourselves for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. Like this is kind of the itemized, like what we can get wrong. Because the determination of what is a good timeline only really follows like one rule. We follow the struggle of the protagonist, which is typically displayed as ethical or justified. Either you save the cat and you make them likable, or even the justification can be warped in a even more batshit loony world.
Or they learned something. They grew in some way.
And those problems are solved by stacking the deck against other scenarios that are equally plausible, and in the case of multiverses or parallel realities, absolutely just, par for the course. So we're operating on a kind of least harm done or necessary evil kind of mentality for the ending to be satisfying, dramatically interesting.
Correct.
To us. And this is very much thrown into question if you pop outside the narrative, which I think the movie's kind of asking us to do because of the randomness of the events it displays in like the photo taking sections, like where we see, okay, and this is the rest of that person's life. Because then you just see these people as random people, like Lola and Manny are just fucking equal to the lady walking her baby in the stroller. And then you realize how like solipsistic our multiverse stories are. And that's what I mean by like propaganda. Like stories are propaganda devices, and they're fun because we unify behind a common like story heritage that we all share by watching it, and we witness it together and we go, yeah, that's our protagonist. That's the person who we're rooting for. But it doesn't change the fact that the ethical designs of the movie can essentially sway the stimulus of our emotions and lead us down a very radical interpretation of, quote, like how things should be. I think that this movie would actually be a lot better if they didn't succeed at the end or something like it's almost like saying multiverse stories. It's the one movie that could really say multiverse stories kind of have no end. They kind of have no satisfaction.
And yet the endeavor of storytelling is antithetical to the thing that you're saying.
Exactly. So it's a not good movie.
Right.
That's the problem. I get it. But therein is the paradox of the multiverse.
You guys are forgetting at the beginning there's two quotes. They remind me of my scrote. I feel like the Elliot is there to be undermined by the second quote, the Furburger, that I'm going to reread the line. After the game is before the game. Oh, that means everything's a game and it's all the same. PQR. The fact that it's chaotic is the point you can't learn. The Elliot quote's bullshit. When you die, you always return. It's a exercise in nihilistic pure form. And that's why my dick is like a worm. WORM, warm. Oh,
Warm.
I
Oh,
really
it's a
think you're
worm.
confusing it for like, it's like you're watching Starship Troopers and taking it seriously. This movie is about crafting amazing visuals. My dick nods at you imperiously. Please, I cede the rest of my time.
I
Hey.
appreciate
So polite.
that argument. I don't agree with you. I do appreciate
I think he's
that.
lobbing it at me. If honestly,
No. He's rightly
Both.
saying that both of us are trying to construct.
it's seen as an art film. It's seen as something that's conveying meaning more than
I
like,
don't think it's an absurdist
Marvel
comedy
movie.
the way that you're arguing that it is, Mike, Andrew or Mike Dice. I just don't. I don't agree with that. I think that's a very
Dice Man.
selective interpretation of all the things that exist in this film. I don't think the both quotes are. I do think the quotes are interacting, but I don't think one matters and the other doesn't. Just like I don't
he
think
was saying
he did say that.
one is. He was saying one is kind of a barometer undermines the other, so they're related in that they have.
in that one is
There's
the
a
trumping
relationship.
thought and the other one has been undermined by it, and I'm saying, well, that's not true. Or I'm just saying I don't agree with that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to.
I guess I'm going to come back to, and this is the only time I'm going to make this point. And Abe, roll your eyes all you want. You can roll them audibly if you want.
give him.
The problem with the idea of saying this as propaganda, calling this propaganda, which it is, but it's only propaganda if there is no cosmic story. If that's true about the universe, then this is propaganda because it's claiming that there is. But so is all stories. So are
Yes.
all stories. And I think that it's difficult to make meaning out of the act of storytelling in that universe that you're positing. And I don't want to get into all that too much, but
No, I'm not positing that. I absolutely agree with what you just said.
all right.
All art is propaganda. Not in a derogatory term. First off, it's not derogatory to just have a thesis and make a statement. That's the aspect of propaganda I wish to point out.
I see.
Also, you can't make movies without being propaganda to some point. You can make non-thesis movies or movies that just ask questions, I guess. But it's not dramatically interesting. So I'm not proposing or positing that we should do this with the movie. I'm just saying this is a great example of how the paradox of
Story
multiverse stories
and multiverse,
that we
right.
seem to be falling in love with really show how writers can just kind of suddenly go, and there's a cat that they save, and
Right.
so we know it's
and
the good one.
and she has a scream that alters the course of time.
Right.
And
so
why? Because we need it, or it's not a story.
but getting back to your cosmic question, I think
Yeah.
that gets in the way of the cosmic question, because then it's like, well, what are you saying? What to me, I guess it's more of a question to you or to you, Dice Man. What is the answer there? What are they trying to say there?
I think that they're following the impulse to make the story cohesive and narratively satisfying, and in so doing, undermining the idea that everyone is just chaotically and randomly bumping into each other without purpose or cause or intelligibility. I think the act of storytelling itself is antithetical to that premise about reality. And that from that you can make all kinds of deductions. And if we were making a philosophy podcast, this is where the G word starts getting thrown around. But we're not, so I'm just going to leave it at that. The multiverse is trying to reconcile.
And what's the G word, Dice Man?
G-spot.
That's right.
There it is.
Oh, did you want to answer that, Dice?
No.
Abe's thing? No.
I'm just here for the G spot. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I'm just
that
pointing
makes
it out
sense to
because
me.
it was, actually the other interesting thing about the third time around is that it's the first time she feels hopeful about, and by feels I mean chooses hope as the primary modus operandi for what this run is about. And she makes acts, and I'm going to use this term. I know this is a reading, so I'm not saying this is what the film means. I'm just using terms that have loaded meaning to pointing this out. She uses faithful choices, right? Meaning that she risks this time things without trying to exert control on reality she doesn't have, which is what all the weapons stuff in this movie is. It's why I really like it for a commentary on gun violence. Every time somebody takes a gun in this film, they're trying to control reality, and it always blows up in their face. It's great.
Yeah.
It always blows up in their face, and I think that more movies should be thinking about that.
Just go down the stream. I mean, that is kind of what we like when getting back to our Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness episode. We were like talking about that exact thing, you know, like how almost all of these movies kind of culminate in the just be like water, just go with the flow, baby.
Right.
Because the world is too chaotic and complex that all your machinations are going to get spit back into your face. But so if you just kind of believe in providence and have faith that you're going to succeed, or scream at a casino, you're going to win. I also love that.
She screams at a roulette ball and makes it turn from red to black.
Yeah,
when you scream at my balls, they just sit in my sack. Hey!
Hey, I love that this movie is like saying gambling. I think this movie has one cosmic truth. Gambling is the answer, everybody. Just gamble away and your problems will be
viewing
solved.
it. Oh, may I?
Oh, no,
Real
please,
quick?
Dice. Please, Dice, man.
Something, my dick. Viewing it formally as I do, I have a slightly different take than you two, which is, I think it's an attempt to stitch something together where you do the normal 3-act structure, but each one's a separate story. That one we'll just have to let go. No rhyme. In the sense that it's also like a mini microcosm of a franchise. If my memory of the Star Wars OG trilogy is anything like you guys, I think each act sort of maps to one of those movies, or at least that arc that we see so often now in blockbusters that we treat it with snark. Oh, my dick, my dick. So if you know what I mean, it's just the 1, 2, 3 beats that we're used to. So of course it has to go middle one sad, end one good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I'm so tired.
Do.
My life is nothing but pain. Please, when you leave this dimension, put a bullet in my brain. Oh!
I also entertained that idea, like maybe this is just 3 stories and they don't actually interact too much. But she does retain the slightest emotional understanding from the previous one, and there's one tip off for that because I was looking for it, and that is that she remembers in the second one how to turn the safety off on the gun.
Yeah,
but
right?
That's the only one she's surprised every time her dad's fucking around.
Yeah, she doesn't retain
exactly.
everything. It's not butterfly effect in that she doesn't retain all the memories of the previous run.
Like download or like McFly.
My cat's like a worm that lives in the ground,
But she does retain a sense of, like, it's almost like she remembers the feelings of what just happened, and sort of starts off again with those feelings. But I can't do a really strong proof for that other than the gun thing. That's the only one. That's the one thing I noticed that said they are linked as one story.
Which to me just means there's an inconsistency there. But yeah, I think honestly, more than anything, just the formal aspects of the movie make me go, this is all one story. You know, it's just
right.
We're not supposed to believe these are simultaneous events that happen. It's something that is corrected.
I love how the end of the unhoused guy's arc is like the dog at the end of that Simpsons. He gets a gun and just looks shifty-eyed.
Yeah, he's like, I got the gun.
You could have fun with my dick stiffy-wise.
This comes off as like, that whole section comes off as like, humans will respect each other, which I don't know if I necessarily believe when like 100K is on the line.
I couldn't believe the way that part of the story resolved.
That was bizarre. And this is 1998 like money, which is like $7 billion.
I don't know how much money it really is.
I gotta ask you guys, because craft-wise, I obviously like a lot of the shit they pulled off, but I thought the soundtrack sucks. Did you guys like the soundtrack? If you do, you are cucks. Oh.
You don't enjoy the power of techno?
Techno.
No to that
Heck
question.
no. Techno. You could
have
catch
to
me
give
here
it-
all week. You could pay money to hear more of this.
More of this is what you want. I
you
know
like
it
this.
is.
I didn't mind the driving house music. It was 100% of its time. Like it's actually the most dated thing about the film now, I would say. But I didn't
Created
hate
and
it.
played by the writer-director. And when I listened, I was not a wreck, sir. Hey.
So the whole thing, to me, the whole movie functions on one principle, which is, you know how there's that word that, like, that dictionary that makes up words, said sonder. I think that's a pretty mimetic term now. Everyone knows what sonder is.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it means like everybody. The moment that you're walking around and you, let's say you're on a sidewalk in a city and you look out and you see a bunch of people and you're like, oh shit, I have the realization just right now that every other person is having like an infinitely complex life that I do. That realization they gave the name to, Sonder. That's what this movie is to me. This movie is just like, and did you know that Sonder exists? Here's a little of that, and here's a little of that. And we go like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And that's why the movie's successful. That's the style of the movie, one could say, is that it goes for that device. And it's a little experiment. I like that. But it's not like a consistent movie. That's why I think it should be.
What do you mean by consistent? You mean that it doesn't? Is it the paradox we've been talking about? Is that what you mean by consistent?
I mean, that's one, but it's also like the rules are weird. Like what kicks off the jump back to time? Like you mentioned, the one with the gun. How come she doesn't remember other things? There's so many inconsistencies just to make this streamlined to the concept that, like, what if you could go back and like sliding doors this?
I would say the movie is actually very consistent in that it never gives you clear causality for anything. And like that's,
right,
but I just think
is
it's
a
narratively
valuable
unsatisfying.
statement.
I think that's like, well, I want to know when this ball hit that ball on the table. You know, like, and we don't know that.
Yes, and we don't know that,
Right.
and we just So
That's life.
that's the struggle.
Life is narratively unsatisfying. Stories that try to encapsulate that, I find gratifying.
I would see, and that's where you and I part company. Because I think the act of storytelling tells you that isn't true.
Mostly, but you can do a lot of different things in any medium. My dick's ghostly.
I mean, you're both right. You're both right.
Everybody's right.
I think that we've gotten to a point now with our multiverse stories where we couldn't like come out with like this, right? Like this is too basic, right?
I think it would
Like,
have
we
to
need
be. We'd have to
put it
iterate
in
on it.
another story.
We'd have to iterate on it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's now a creative thing to point out the erosive
Right.
nature of causal reasoning in a film. Like I think we're now at a point where unintended causality is more interesting to us than like people's choices equal this outcome.
Mhm.
And like, for instance, I think a great like flag on this topic that people should go back to conversationally for a while is The Good Place. The Good Place was a great show for exploring how moral choices are now being judged through the lens of a bunch of unintended consequences. And if you do that, nobody's good. Like there is no good person,
Right.
or
Yes.
good place for people in contemporary society because of unintended causality. So like Run Lola Run is a sort of like a preliminary dot on the media journey toward that conclusion. I don't think you can go back to the beginning and say, isn't this cool? I think you got to start from The Good Place now.
Yeah, I think it has to be wrapped up in like a completely additional form, like a more complex narrative or a genre or a wider story.
Yeah, if only The Good Place were funny. My dick's like Lola, it's runny. Oh,
Ew. Your dick's runny?
It's not amazing. I'm with you on that. Can I do one last reading that's not related to anything that we've talked about so far?
Yeah.
No, stay on task like the rest of us have. Oh.
This is on task. I don't take instructions from men who preach at me in soliloquy, sir.
Do not listen to this.
I'm not gonna.
Michael.
So I do think that this movie has some interesting unintended gender commentary. Specifically, like, I think if you look at Lola's relationship to all the males in her life, that once the movie is sort of making an argument for, and I think unintentionally, the sort of toxic, the toxic consequences of male choices on women. Like, for instance, the movie starts every single sequence with, or all these runs with her mother, who's also having an affair, right? Like, that's the first thing we learn. Her mother's having an affair. But that choice, her choice, doesn't actually change anything about the world, right? It's only her father's choice and her boyfriend's choices that actually form the sort of two tent poles she's running between this whole movie. She's at the mercy of those two men.
Fuck. And then we see, in terms of like people that we see that aren't men, it's nuns and it's mothers.
Yep. Pretty much exclusively.
Fuck.
You know?
Nice find.
Yeah, I think, and I also think if you looked into like even her relationship with the bank guard, you know, who she ends up being a sort of salvific figure for, he treats her in this sort of objectifying way, and then she ends up being this object of, I guess, sort of a Madonna horror version, like a little bit. Like if you just take the sentiment of those two interactions, she treats him in this sort of whorish way, and that's, I know, very strong language, but like in an objectifying way. That's how I took it throughout the film. But then at the end, when he's in the ambulance, she is the Madonna. She is a healing agent for him.
Yeah.
You know. So there was this sort of, and I don't think it was
simplistic kind of, no, I think it's just a product of the thought behind that ideology in 1998.
This discussion really makes me want to cover the film Enemy.
Oh yeah, that one's fucked up.
Like
Spider?
You got a friend in me.
Sea anemone.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm helping.
Oh, yeah, shaped like a sea anemone. No, no.
I'm helping him now.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
and I don't know why.
I don't either.
But yeah, that's it. I think that's pretty. That's a pretty cool catch. It's weird to me that this movie has that, and I know before Dice Swaim comes in and he's like, "Stop, just treat it like Scott Pilgrim again."
Yo, don't preempt me. My dick's like something that fucks you gently.
This movie doesn't really earn that to me. I don't know. It's like it feels like also here's this observation or here's this thought. Very cool.
Oh no, I actually think that's the value of literary criticism anyway, is extracting the other meanings that are implied by an artist's work. I don't think they're useful as the primary understanding of what the film's about.
It's just also,
I mean,
here's a little bit of that.
And I'm sure there's lots of college professors everywhere who could bury me with arguments for why those things are the primary meaning, but I don't agree.
It's all, everyone picks it. But either way, I respect the runtime. I really do believe that experimental films shouldn't try to be more than like one thing. They're an experiment. That's it. So get out the cinematic device you wish to convey, play with it a bit, and then it's kind of over.
It's not even that experimental. I mean, people are calling it experimental for the time, and it's like, okay, because it's got a little bit of like jump cuttiness, and it's not a traditional one narrative over like it's broken into three parts. But like all the pieces are identifiably mainstream at this point in time.
That's that's the thing, is that's why I keep coming back to the propaganda device or machine, is that it's just like they kind of had to just put a button on it, and that's fine. I'm not saying, again, I like this movie as like what it is, which is like a stylistic approach to a cinematic concept, and it does it very well, and it birthed a lot of mimicry from everyone because it was cool.
It's very cool because it's very much, it's insular in its presentation in a way that feels like, oh, this is born from a culture I'm not connected to exactly. Like, it definitely feels like of a time and space that if you're an American audience, you don't really see a lot in 1998. You know? Also, I think the director made some great color choices that you could use as meaning, like, you know, the way he uses red in particular.
Super European.
Yeah, it is.
Concept.
Her hair felt
like our character is yellow or red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough. I haven't researched enough to like draw the actual connections to it. So I'll just say that I do think the filmmaker is a conventional storyteller even in this format. Like, I would call Memento more experimental than this. And that's, I think, the same year or a year later. You know?
I would say yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's some icons of multiverse and parallel realities that are starting to form as we're doing this series, which is you get a lot of broken mirrors or glass, and you get a lot of cartoons.
They love cartoons in the multiverse.
I think cartoons is like a really quick way to be like, everything you thought it was, it's not. You know, like that's. I don't, you know, it's pretty dumb,
or like
but it's
complete
fun.
Other rules of the universe, you know, like, because you can understand a universe that's an animated one and how it would be different by just looking at it.
Right. And obviously glass is great because it's a plane that technically stops stuff like invisible stuff like air, but keeps your vision so you can see through the threshold. And then you can also crack it or break it like a lot of multiverse parallel reality movies have done. Sliding doors is a, you know, kind of reference to that even itself.
I almost picked Sliding Doors, a movie I've never watched. I have a feeling I'm going to find it boring compared to this one. And Butterfly Effect. Is that one we should do?
Most definitely. It's got zero techno in it.
Well, then fuck it. You know, I don't want to see that.
If I recall, Sliding Doors credits scroll from the bottom like normal movies. And in Run Lola Run, the credits roll from the top.
It's really weird.
So
it's really weird.
Basically best movie ever, right?
It's a pretty great movie. We haven't heard from Dice Man in a while, so I'm guessing that either he's got a soliloquy that's going to be a real banger or it's time to move on. Dice Man?
I think we're supposed to do it in the next segment, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, then let's do that. Let's prepare for
high like a kite. Okay, go.
Let's prepare for the final leg of our journey, where we close the wormhole, in which we decide: do we want to live in the multiverse of Run Lola Run? Do we want to close the wormhole behind us, or do we want to fuse Run Lola Run's multiverse with our own? I think Dice Man should go first.
Yeah, hit us with your
What do you got,
thoughts.
Dice Man?
With most of your points, I disagree, but I said my piece. My cock is like snot; it spreads disease. Oh,
Ew.
My name's
flex.
the Dice Man. I cometh like the Ice Man. Lola's got it pretty bad. Of all the characters, I like the dad. Plus, we didn't mention they do a classic bit with the dudes carrying plate glass.
Yeah.
I love that
Abe,
bit.
I never knew you ate ass. Oh,
Zing.
You motherfucker! This guy gonna kick him through.
and ultimately,
a portal.
the one uniting thing of the tree realities is Lola runs very fast aisle. Bet that Adam is the asshole. Oh. Anyway, I'd stay in their reality, bang Lola, and give Manny a handy. I'm fun at parties.
Nicely
Hire
done.
me, please. No lower age limit. Oh.
Wow.
And by the way,
Yeah.
I'll eat ass. I'm not. That
Sure,
wasn't what
yeah.
was offensive to
Who
me.
wouldn't?
By him saying that, it was more of just his general energy, just coming at me.
You didn't like the
That's why I
insult
reacted so violently.
that was implied, but
yeah,
you liked
it felt
the
like
act.
an insult.
Yeah.
But like I was like, that's fine.
Yeah, the act
I
is
don't know,
fine, but the
I just
insult
felt like I should
is
say
not.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's how you say stuff, Adam. It's not,
It's
like,
not
what you
the
say.
fact of eating ass; it's how you eat the ass that matters.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's also
So,
true.
are you gonna
It
eat
does
the ass
matter.
of this wormhole? Are you doing that?
No, I'm gonna leave this world alone.
Okay.
I'm just gonna close this loop.
Okay.
And just walk away slowly and be like, thank you for your service, Run Lola Run. But ultimately, we got it from here.
So, I mean, I guess like I like the idea of the purgatory vibe going on in this film, where these two people learn from their mistakes and improve their lives, in theory, from multiple tries at this. Like, that's the kind of basic premise for all these time loop movies, and it started with Groundhog Day, where like through repetition you finally learn the way it's supposed to go. But I think the movie's frenetic causality means that actually understanding why things went well maybe isn't possible. So then it's kind of a futile exercise. So I got to leave that behind. I like my cosmic classroom to be a little bit clearer for me, so that I can retain the things I learned from one moment to the next. So I'm closing the wormhole behind me, and I'm leaving our rhyming friend Dice Clay behind.
No, please no. Humpty Dumpty sat on his balls. Oh,
God damn,
that's a good one.
That is definitely,
man. I'm really rethinking
definitely
this.
A joke he really did say. I think. Pretty
did.
sure Andrew Dice Clay probably made that
Humpty
joke.
Dumpty sat on his balls. That sounds great. I want to order that whole special.
I am laughing so hard.
Laughing and loving over there.
I'm loving it.
Well,
man.
Abe, we're gonna roll the cosmic dice and hopefully get a mic that doesn't rhyme.
Yeah, fine.
That'll be good because it's been 5 straight. So hopefully the 6th one is the charm. Hey,
it's a good thing that we actually like don't have to see these bodies. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they're starting to pile up.
Oh,
if we had a metaphorical room where we kept all of our assholes' bodies.
Yeah, I got there is a Swaim pile just 8 feet high, just body after body. All of them used to rhyme. That's what's going on. Anyway, hey, curse mongers. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode and our perennial struggle to finally get back to our home universe, if such a place even exists. Tune in next time for our next exploration. Who knows where we'll be or who the asshole will be. Spoilers, it will be Mike. But if you enjoyed this content, please check out the other stuff on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can hear so many other cool podcasts, ones where we don't even rhyme our jokes. Things about how directors use their craft in low art films, called director piece theater, things like that. Things like frame rate, things like, I believe I've seen that Rough Stuff is back. Is that right, Abe?
Rough stuff is back.
Love
baby.
it. Yeah, so Sarah and Bridget
they just had an episode.
Yeah, back in full
on
effect.
bathroom etiquette. Yeah,
wonderful.
And we got more stuff in store for you in the following weeks. As you mentioned, Director Piece Theater. We got an episode where I talk about Shrek 2.
Yeah, you did.
And Adam has to listen.
I did have to.
We got more episodes of I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours. And that's Adam and Maggie's show.
That's
and
right.
then the return in about 2 weeks of Kings of King with Michael and I.
Ooh,
we're going to be covering Carrie. So get on that.
That'll be chill.
Keepers on that, everybody.
That'll be chill. Dice Man, do you want to rhyme us out?
I think we killed him, so he's gone.
Oh God. I'm looking at him.
Oh God. See,
No,
it's
I'm looking at
horrifying now.
I've never
Now
looked
it's
at the bodies
horrifying.
before. This is a horrible thing we're doing.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Oh God.